Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing a non-spoiler review for Rocketman, the biopic for Elton John, starring Taron Egerton. So obviously there is a lot going on with this movie. I love that they released it during Pride Month, June, and I don't even know where to start. So like my initial reaction when the movie ended was that I felt really bad for it because those of you who watch this channel know I absolutely loved Bohemian Rhapsody and the work that Rami Malek did in it and everyone else. It is such an amazing movie and you guys really need to watch it. But unfortunately, because that movie did so well with the Oscars and just like with the awards slate in general, it did very well. Rami Malek took home Best Actor in a Leading Role at the Oscars. Because that happened, this movie is not going to get any kind of awards recognition because they're not going to they're not going to do it to two musical biopics from two very eccentric artists that were popular around the same time 2 years in a row. And the movies explore kind of similar themes of sexuality and alcohol and drugs and stuff like that, and like the loneliness that being in such a public eye can cause, and just stuff like that is explored in both movies. And unfortunately, no matter how amazing Rocketman is, and it is an amazing movie and you guys really should go see it, and Taron Egerton did an amazing, like fantastic, magnificent job. But and it also wasn't even released in the fall during the award season. So unfortunately, this movie is going to have its theater run and then it's run on streaming, and I'm not sure much else is going to come for it, which is so upsetting because it is so good. And I think part of that is that the studio did not realize how good it would be. And yeah, so I don't even... Maybe they did realize, and maybe it was just a strategic thing to release it during Pride Month, because obviously they could do that, or they could release it in the fall and go for a campaign thing. But obviously after everything that happened with Bohemian Rhapsody, releasing it in the fall would not have amounted to much, which is a very, very competitive movie season, by the way. And so I think it was smart to counter-program in the summer against the blockbusters. But so that was my initial kind of like sad reaction. Okay, so a lot of things went into this movie-going experience for me. I got to see the movie with my mother and my grandmother, which was amazing. I love when I get to take them to the movies because I usually go alone because no one usually wants to go to the movies as much as I do. And I like to see them on my own terms too. Like, I like to sit through all the credits. I like to get there at a certain time. I like to sit in a particular spot. I like to see certain movies in certain formats, and I have friends that don't like to spend the extra money or stuff like that. So, but it was really nice to take my family. I love going to the movies with my family, and for seeing the movie on a Monday night, it was actually pretty crowded in there, which was amazing. Unfortunately, I had to pee the entire time, so part of the climax I kind of missed because I had to run to the bathroom. I missed about like 2 minutes of the movie, which I won't like say obviously when it was because this is a non-spoiler review, but hopefully I didn't miss that much. My mom said I didn't miss that much, but I literally could not hold my pee any longer. This was a pretty long movie. I'm pretty sure it was over 2 hours, or maybe it was just about 2 hours, and there was a lot going on in it. So the first thing I'm going to say, for those of you who have not seen the movie yet and are very interested in my opinion, if you're wondering if this is like Bohemian Rhapsody in terms of the setup and how it's done, I would say no. It's very different. It was like on the posters they said it was like a fantasy, instead of like a biography, like a realistic take on what happened. as Bohemian Rhapsody was, well, although they did alter the timeline for that movie, this one was very much like a musical. Like it was like a fantasy, as they said. It was like cutting to a fantasy scene or taking a moment and fantasizing it and blowing it up and making it what the songs make it, you know what I mean? Like if you listen to Elton John music, you know that it's out of this world. Like there's this ethereal quality to it. It's like it takes you to another place, if that makes sense. And so a lot of this movie is like that, and I think it pays a wonderful tribute to Elton and to what he, like who he is as a person and what his personality is, especially his stage persona, which was like a whole thing in and of itself. So as a person who has grown up listening to Elton John, Tiny Dancer was always a song that my dad played for me. He played a lot of songs for me, but he played like Tiny Dancer and Sweet Baby James and Fly Me to the Moon. A lot of like amazing classic songs that I grew up with. And in the same way that I grew up with Queen music, my dad is like the best music taste in the world. So I grew up with amazing music. And Elton John was a huge part of my life, but I never really looked into him that much. And obviously I didn't do that when I was young, because you just assume that being famous is like this fantasy. You don't even think about any other alternatives. And then, I don't know, I just never thought to look into Elton John's life. I always thought he had it so good. And then watching this movie, it was actually quite sad. Like I teared up multiple times. I had no idea that he had been through the things that he had been through. And it's also interesting because I'm just going to keep talking about Bohemian Rhapsody because the two movies overlap as well. Like Reed Richards, who was a big part in Queen's rise to fame, was also a big part of Elton John's life, as you will find out if you watch this movie or if you know about his story. And I was just absolutely floored by some of the things that I saw. I was disgusted by the things that Elton has gone through, the way people have treated him, and the way that has reflected on how he's, like how that's manifested itself into the way he treats himself and to the way he views himself. There's so much to learn from this movie, and I think it's so important that it came out during Pride Month. I think that there's a lot of lessons, particularly for the LGBTQ plus community, that people can learn from watching this movie, especially families of people who are in that community. I know that if I had the reaction that his mother had, that Elton's mother had when I came out to my family, I would have like not been okay. Like it's crazy to see the way that some people are treated for the way that they feel, and the way that people can be outed too without them wanting to be outed. Like just random, like just there's just so much happened in this movie that was so heartbreaking. And I didn't expect it to be so sad, but at the same time, there were also so many amazing and beautiful things about this movie. The musical numbers were stunning. They were absolutely stunning. And I have like a high bar for musical numbers because I grew up on High School Musical. And so as a kid, I became obsessed with musical numbers, and I was like, if you're gonna do one, you have to do one right, you know? And recently, like, movies they're really doing well. Like Beauty and the Beast had Belle, its opening number, amazing. All of Aladdin, all of those musical numbers were just stunning. Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, like, but this movie too, I was like, wow, because I think the key to a good musical number, when it's particularly an upbeat song, you need the audience to feel the energy. And a lot of times people do that like so wrong. Like, for example, Be Our Guest in the live action Beauty and the Beast. I didn't think it did a very good job of like building the energy in the audience. Every time it started to build, it settled it back down. Whereas with a good musical number, it does not do that. It builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and then you're like, ah! And you're like in this euphoric smiling state. And a lot of the musical numbers in this movie did that, which was really good. Although, of course, because it was such a sad movie, so many musical numbers were also super, super sad. And so I don't want to say low energy, because they really were powerful. Like, they struck me. The use of Rocketman in this movie, the moment that they chose to use that song, and now I really want to know if like when each song was used in this movie is like actually the inspiration for that song. I'm curious, because Rocketman was used in such a heartbreaking way. I just like, it still hurts. Like, and I saw the movie last night, but I like, it's still like, I still feel it, you know? And I just, the way the way the film was shot, and the cinematography, and the way they utilized the musical numbers and the choreography in said numbers to tell a story was so good. It was so good. Like, I am going to look into the choreographer for this movie, and the director as well. Like, it was so strong. Really, just so strong. And again, Taron Egerton did an amazing job. Richard Madden as Richard Madden as Reed Richards also did an amazing job. I hated him, but that's how he did an amazing job, because I really liked him at first. I was like, yes, this is so beautiful. And then I was like, oh, I want to slap you. If that doesn't say anything about the movie, I don't know what does. But yeah. So again, I'm not going to consider it a spoiler to say that this movie was sad, because it was. And it's just sad to see all that Elton went through. And I think it was done in a really good way, and I think that Taron Egerton did a great job of portraying him, and he did a great job singing too. In Bohemian Rhapsody, they used Freddie Mercury's vocals for like 99.9% of everything. In terms of the music, they used they used recordings of Freddie Mercury for that movie. In this movie, they had Taron Egerton singing them, which I thought was a very different way to do it, but I actually liked it too. I mean, in both cases, I liked it. Because in Bohemian Rhapsody, it actually didn't take me out of it, because that's how well Rami Malek did in terms of portraying Freddie. That it didn't even like there was a seamless switch from Rami acting to Freddie singing, so that was fine. But in this one, it also was another example of it working really well to have the actor doing the singing. I thought it looked really good. The child actors who portrayed Elton as a kid, and Reginald Dwight, who portrayed him as a kid at 2 different ages, those were really good as well. Very, very, very likable young actors. I don't know if they've done anything else, but I'm also going to look into that after. And again, so like, I know that I keep saying it's sad. It was so sad, but it was also really uplifting and an important film, and it was so much fun to watch. Like, it was so much fun. It was colorful. It was just a great way to dive into the music, the amazing, stellar music of Elton John, and to see kind of how his story played out, and how the people around him kind of, I don't know, like it worked, you know, and it was so good. Like, it was just very strong, and I really enjoyed it. And I feel like had Bohemian Rhapsody not been a thing, this would have been such a strong Oscar contender, and Taron Egerton could have been Best Actor in a Leading Role. Like, I think he could have been Best Actor, a winner actually for that category. I truly do think that. That's how strong this movie was in terms of just basically everything in it. I really enjoyed it, and I really hated it at the same time, because it was so sad. But again, as I've said like 15 times, it is important for people to watch this movie and to take those lessons away. And if you have seen it and you're watching this review and you don't know what lessons I'm talking about, basically the movie has a strong theme that other people will have their opinions of you, and they'll bring you down and make you feel absolutely awful. And many people react by subduing all of their feelings, like hiding all away through alcoholism, through drugs, and that's never the answer. The answer is to live unapologetically and to be yourself and to be happy in your own skin and to do what you need to do to be happy in your own skin. And that suppressing yourself, repressing other people, it is never the answer. And to just be unapologetically you, because that is the best person that you could ever be. And that, my friends, is Rocketman and my opinions on it. I hope we get more musical biopics going forward because I really enjoy them, actually. And I think I need to watch more documentaries on some of my favorite bands and artists, because there are some that I've watched, like I've watched some on the Eagles, I've watched like 1,000 on the Beatles, I've watched the 11-hour Beatles anthology, and that was like a whole thing. But they're so interesting. They really are so interesting. And I think Fandango, someone tweeted out, like, who do you want to see the next musical biopic be about? And a lot of people were saying Prince, some people were saying Bowie, some people were saying Michael Jackson. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys want? Who do you want to see a musical biopic about? And do you want it to be more like Rocketman, where it's like this big fantasy, where they take they integrate the real life experiences that he went through in a very realistic way, and then when the music comes in, it becomes out of this world? Or do you want it to be more like Bohemian Rhapsody? And obviously the artist that you're doing this story about is going to be a strong influence on the type of film that is made about them. So let me know all of your thoughts on that. I really want to know. And who's your favorite artist? Are you a big Elton John fan? Are you a big Queen fan? Are you big on the Beatles, the Eagles, the Stones, Bowie, Prince, The Cure, the Smiths? Just tell me, who are your favorite artists? I'm very interested. And I did not mention any artists from the past like 2 decades. Taylor Swift, Jonas Brothers. Who are your favorite artists? I love Taylor. Subscribe if you want to see more of my coverage from all the movies going forward this summer and this fall. And give this video a thumbs up if you liked Rocketman. And yeah, so yeah. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.